Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. You know we love you good old boys in Africa. I don't know why them Egyptians keep sending me all the hate mail, Big C. I keep thanking them on the Big C Sports Show. I do want to say we love you good old boys in Canada, but there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, on this beautiful December the 19th, 2017, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's an amazing, beautiful day down here in the South. You know, you think about mid-December, week before Christmas, everybody's happy. You go outside and work on my tan today. I was excited about that.
Yeah.
So I'm radiant right now, as you would say.
Yeah, it's funny. You're working on that beautiful tan. And I got friends of all persuasions. I have some friends that are Caucasian. I have friends that are Native Americans, some friends that are from Japan, some from Korea. I have people from even some Russian friends. In fact, some of my Russian friends are the best ones. When you want to borrow some money, they don't go to the bank, they go to the mattress. Big C, that's a good old secret. I asked him how much interest does he get on that money. He said none of your business. So anyway, sometimes I understand how Donald Trump feels, Big C. I want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Big C sent you. And Big C, as far as what I'm understanding happening in Washington, there's a lot of good things happening in the world of sports, but we always say sports and politics, it's the same. Did them good old boys, Donald Trump's friends, did they pass a tax bill? Are you going to be able to buy more Escalades, Big C, your thought, with that money you're saving?
Well, I'm talking, there's some provisions that block that so-called tax bill right now that they did not look into, the law.
Oh, really?
Before they tried to rush through with it. So they're now trying to make some provisions to the tax bill, Charlton, to be able to get it passed. But the way it's written right now, and them rushing it through, it shows the impropriety that Washington and the Republican side of our politics are doing, where they're trying to aid those who are the wealthiest in America. You think about it. When you cut the tax rate, Charlton, from the wealthiest people in America from 35% down to 21%. And people need to have a realistic stance that 1% of America has 65% of the wealth of this country.
Isn't that amazing?
So when you cut their tax rate by 14%, where is the deficit going to be made up in this country when we talk about programs that assist the children and elderly in this country? When we talk about the food program in school, Charlton, the free lunch, the free breakfast that children get in school from needy families, Charlton. When we talk about Medicaid, Medicare for children and elders, Charlton. These programs are going to be sorely affected. And they're talking about abolishing Obamacare. So in 5 years, Charlton, another 13 million Americans will not be able to afford health care. This is the rush to judgment, as they say, when they talk about fake news, saying this tax plan is going to benefit the middle class. The middle class is going to be left out. When they're talking about where you're going to see more in your paycheck, okay, you might see another $40 every 2 weeks in your paycheck, $60 every 2 weeks in your paycheck. But at the end of the year, Charlton, when you try to itemize deductions and they're no longer available to you, you won't get the money back from the IRS that you've been paying in, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people just don't read. They got to start reading, because as we read, more things make sense to people who read, especially when you understand. And I just think, unfortunately, a lot of people just don't read, because I looked at that train that happened, that train wreck that happened up in the Great Northwest, up in the state of Washington. An Amtrak train was going down to Portland, and it was going at 80 miles per hour on a 30-mile-per-hour zone, because either the train conductor did not see the sign and said it 30 miles per hour, or he just couldn't read. Either way, he made a mistake that cost some people their lives, Big C. And ironically, when I was just talking with the nurse this morning when I was doing my workout at the gym so I could get my six-pack back like yours, Big C, and she said that
yours in the
freezer. Well, mine was on those crunch bars. I have my stomach cramped up as we speak, trying to look like Julio Jones in my six-pack, Big C. But the nurse was telling me that they fear what's going to happen when a lot of people get cut off the health care. is that they're going to need help anyway, but they won't be able to get help without going to a general hospital and waiting 12 hours. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, not only that, the president, tweeted out today, this is the reason why you need to improve the infrastructure of America. But he failed to tell people that he was cutting the budget that
Amen.
the rail system.
That would benefit. Yep.
He was taking 41% out of that budget. He is speaking in one side of his neck and talking out of the other side of his neck, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about cutting the infrastructure budget 41% in America, and this is by giving the wealthy that tax break, Charlton.
Yep.
Where's the money going to come to improve the bridges and the roadways in America?
Yep.
These are the things that when you're talking about putting people back to work, when you add $1.4 trillion to the deficit next year, Charlton, in 2018, how are you going to create jobs that the government are going to fund, Charlton, for infrastructure within America?
Yeah.
These are the things that his constituents are not listening to.
Yeah.
They're telling people, well, the middle class is going to get more on their paycheck. But corporate America, Charlton, is going to get more into their slush funds. The big donors to the presidency and politicians, Charlton, are the ones who are going to reap the benefits of this, Charlton. Those lobbyists are going to have more money to spend. So when you talk about trickle-down economics, this is not trickle-down economics, Charlton. This is trickle-up economics. Because why does he not cut America's taxes 15%? You're going to cut it for the wealthy 15%, Charlton. Why not for the middle class 15%?
Well,
that's what no one is understanding. And so if you're only making a minuscule part of what the wealthiest Americans are making, Charlton, you're not getting anything. Actually, your tax rate is going to go up next year. That's what's going to happen. With no itemized deduction.
And they even getting rid of some of the mortgage deduction, the interest deduction. When you buy a house, you can write off the interest. It's a lot like I was telling one of my Russian friends. I said, man, where'd you get all that money? And he said, none of your business. When you think about Trump and how much money they have, and they've been hiding and funneling back and forth with Putin and them Russian oligarchs that they have, that Trump Tower, Big C, they know it's for them. But a lot of dumb people, sometimes you perish because of lack of knowledge, or just because it's called survival of the fittest. But that's why we tell people to read. Read to your kids. And read is important. And that's why we ask people on the Big C Sports Show, make sure you read at least an hour a day. So even no matter what happens in the White House, you'll be fine. Big C, I do want to bring up something that happened last night in the world of football. And I think football is fantastic, especially, we love college football. I know you good old boys down south. You guys eat, breathe, and sleep for that stuff, Big C. But last night in the NFL, I look at the Atlanta Falcons, which is a team that, they're trying to avoid that Super Bowl hangover from losing and not making it back the next year. They got lucky and got out of Tampa last night with a win because the good old boy could not kick field goals between the uprights. Give me your thoughts on the psyche of Atlanta. And number 24, that running back, he's a stud, Big C. He's the reason they won that game. It wasn't because of Matt Ryan. Your thoughts?
Well, Antonio Freeman went back home last night, Charlton. He's a product of Florida State. And Jimbo Fisher, he came out of that program down there, Charlton. And so going back to Tampa last night, he was back on his home turf running the football and did a tremendous job. A couple of weeks ago, Charlton, he missed a couple games under concussion protocol. But last night he showed no ill effects of that, Charlton. But, people keep talking about Matt Ryan. He's last year's MVP in the NFL, but he's a middle-of-the-road quarterback, Charlton. For a quarterback to, you think about it, he doesn't get the backlash that a Cam Newton got coming off his MVP season, Charlton, when he didn't repeat in the playoffs and getting back to the Super Bowl. Matt Ryan has had the same season this year as he had last year. Think about it. The Falcons were in the same position at this time last year, Charlton, when they were 9-5. Okay? But right now they have the toughest road to get to the playoffs in their division. Their next two games, Charlton, are against New Orleans and Carolina. And both of those teams both have former MVPs, Charlton, in the NFL at quarterback. So when you think about how hot the Saints have been and how hot the Panthers have been, it's not likely that they can beat both of those teams in the same division because they would have to win the division, Charlton, to make the playoffs. And so a loss to either one of those teams eliminates them, Charlton, just like it eliminated Green Bay losing to the Panthers this week and Atlanta winning. But I don't see them being able to knock off a red-hot New Orleans team. They got fortunate in that last time that they played down in the Dome with the interception. And Carolina, Charlton, has just been finding ways to win. Greg Olsen back, helping Cam Newton out. Charlton had a huge game this past weekend. But this Atlanta defense, you think about it, they gave up 3 touchdown passes to Jameis Winston.
Wow.
Who's been a true disappointment this season in the NFL.
Yeah, and when I bring that up to you, look at that division. You have in Carolina with Newton, you have Winston down at Tampa Bay, Breeze in New Orleans, and then you think about Ryan in Atlanta, and all of these guys are approaching $100 million contracts. But I will give them something to think about. Of those 4 quarterbacks, 3 have played in a Super Bowl. Only one has won a Super Bowl. But let me get your thoughts on this. When I know New Orleans has some great running backs down there in New Orleans, and I think Mark Ingram is a great running back down there for New Orleans. And you just talked about the good old boy from Atlanta last night in Freeman. And then I look at McCaffrey for Carolina. It looks like these running backs are the reason that these teams can win and take some of the pressure off the quarterbacks. But the quarterbacks make it seems like 4 or 5 times their salary. Does that make sense, Big C? As a defensive player, which one strikes more fear in you? The guy that's touching the ball 20 times a game on the ground, or the guy that's going to throw the ball 20 out of 30 times completed? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we saw that last night with Freeman. Charlton accounted for more than 200 yards of total offense coming out of the backfield. That's what makes Matt Ryan's job easy. When you look at any quarterback in the NFL, Charlton, and that play action sets up their passing game because that running back has dominated the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And linebackers just can't fly out of it. Even strong safeties, Charlton, have to sit a little tighter. And so it makes a quarterback look real good. And that's what you've seen with Matt Ryan. When Freeman was out of the lineup, he was struggling.
Yep.
You think about it in the Super Bowl last year with Freeman and Coleman, Charlton. These 2 players dominated the first half against New England.
Yeah.
In the second half, they touched the ball 2 times on running plays. And Atlanta gave up a lead because they got out of the ball control part of their offense.
Wow.
And so this is what you have to look at. You think about Drew Brees, the turnabout in him this year with the dual-headed threat at running back with Cabor and Ingram in the backfield, Charles.
Yeah.
That has made Drew Brees' job very easy. He doesn't have to throw for 350 yards a game this year, Charlton. He can stay under 200, around the 300 range, and Charlton come out with victories.
Yeah.
And so, even you look at Cam Newton, they upgraded his backfield, bringing McCaffrey in to take some of the load off the receiving game, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so McCaffrey has really helped this offense. So when you think about Tampa Bay, they've had problems at running back all year.
Yeah.
Martin has been hurt in and out of the lineup, Charlton, so they haven't had any consistency. So the 3 top teams in the conference have had dominant games on the ground from their backfield, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's made a huge difference. You won't hear Freeman talked about in the same breath that Ryan is.
No.
They say as Ryan goes, the franchise goes. No, it's as Freeman goes, the franchise goes, Charlton.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because everybody on the team, oftentimes, the way my Russian friends play, when they gamble, Big C, they already got the certain cards that are sticky. And I asked, why are these cards sticky? He said, don't ask so many questions. And so I didn't ask any questions, Big C. But when you think about it, and you're from a defensive guy's point of view, offensive guys make the most money in football, and we know that. Offensive guys are the ones we want to say that is the league MVP. We've seen that many times. Even though defense wins championships, offensive guys get paid more money. Big C, that makes no sense at all. But I want to bring up a point you talked about with Freeman. I want to bring it out to the West Coast and tie that game in. I look at what the Rams did to Seattle. They did it because they have a great running back in Todd Gurley that you've been talking about ever since he played down in the SEC. He needs to touch the ball more. He is doing it now, touching the ball more. And now Goff looks really good, and the Rams can win. It seems like they can outscore anybody. I contrast that with what happened in Jacksonville compared to what happened with Freeman last night. You look at Fournette down in Jacksonville. They're giving him the ball a lot, Big C. They're going to the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. And I just think the offensive guys that are making it happen are the running backs. It's not the quarterbacks. But as you always said, they're going to get the glory. Will that ever change, Big C, when they start looking at the numbers the way you just did, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, every defense in the NFL that plays Jacksonville, they don't fear Blake Bortles.
No, they don't.
You have Yeldon and Fournette, tandem in the backfield down there, 2 SEC running backs from LSU and Alabama.
Yeah.
That have been dominant forces down there. You look at Mercedes Lewis, who's been around forever, the tight end out of UCLA, Charlton, has really helped stabilize that offense. Blake Bortles is the benefactor of that, Charlton, because his job is real easy. Just don't mess up. You know, as Maroney said, this would be the ideal situation for your offense this year. And he said not have Blake Bortles throw any passes. So when you look at it, Blake Bortles doesn't have to throw 20 passes a
No.
Jacksonville to win.
Yep.
They have a dominant running game. And as you speak about, these running backs don't get credit for dominating the NFL. It's always looked at as at the quarterback job. They say, well, without a great quarterback, you have no running game.
Yeah.
That's not true. Eli Manning hasn't had a running game in a long time, and he hasn't been a great quarterback either.
Yeah.
So when he was successful with the Giants, Charlton, he had solid running game with Jacob and Marshall in the backfield winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So without those things, Charlton, you don't win. I mean, when you look at every team that have won a Super Bowl, I mean, Marshawn Lynch was doing it for the Seahawks.
Yep.
The Bucs was doing it for the Steelers.
Yep.
You even look at the Patriots winning last year, Charlton. Who was scoring the winning touchdown?
Yep.
They're running backs.
Yep.
They're running backs. Tom Brady got the MVP, but the running backs won the game, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you look at it. So it's up and down the ledger. Anybody can say what they want to say about a quarterback in the NFL. Ask Dan Marino, Charlton. He went into the Hall of Fame when he was retired. He's the NFL's all-time leading passer.
Yeah.
Did he ever have a solid running game in his career?
No.
Did he ever win a Super Bowl?
No.
He went to one and got killed by a team that had a solid running game when they had Roger Craig and Tom Bradford in the backfield.
Yeah.
Charlton.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That speaks volume when you look up and down the list, Charlton, at all these great quarterbacks. Without that solid running back, Charlton, they just don't get anywhere. Even when Cam Newton won the MVP 2 years ago,
Yep.
he had two solid running backs to help him out.
Yeah.
Denver won the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning got the MVP that game.
Yep.
But who was a solid runner in the game, Charlton? Think about Anderson.
Anderson for the Denver. Yeah.
Game on the ground.
Yeah. And see, that's something that is, when you think about it, and people keep saying we got to get a star quarterback. They're talking about getting the kid out of USC. They want to see if he's going to come out of USC or not. Well, I think they're going to realize he's going to need another year, and hopefully he'll come back to play for the Trojans. But when you bring it up, even going back in the day when Terry Bradshaw had the Steelers winning 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, they had Franco Harris, and they even had Rocky Bleier who could spell, Franco Harris when he needed a break. But they pounded the ball on the ground, and then he had Lynn Swann and John Stallworth.
Well, Charlton, you think about 2 of those Super Bowl victories with the Steelers.
Yeah.
With Rocky Bleier and Franco Harris in the backfield.
Yep.
In 2 of those seasons, Charlton, they had dual 1,000-yard seasons in the backfield.
Yeah.
Only time in history that the team has won Super Bowls and had 2,000-yard rushes in the backfield, the Steelers did it.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw got the accolades, but Bleier and Harris got him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think there was even a season where Bradshaw was injured for most of the season. They had Gillum in there, and he still had the Steelers winning because they had Franco Harris and they had Rocky Bleier, and that defense that carried the way, even though defensive players don't get paid as much.
Look at the Eagles this year, Charlton. Everybody talks about Carson Wentz was having an MVP season.
Yeah.
Okay, he picked up the running back that led the NFL in rushing TDs last year, okay?
Yeah.
Guy named LeGarrette Blount.
Yep.
He picked up another running back, Ncaa, out of Miami, who had 200-yard rushing games, Charlton.
Yeah.
So it made his job real easy when a defense is looking. They say, okay, they got LeGarrette Blount. Every time he touches the ball, he gains 5 yards.
Yeah.
So we can't bail on him.
Yeah.
Every time he puts his hand on the ball, he's got 6 yards. We can't bail on him.
Yeah.
So we got 3 receivers running free as well as a tight end in the secondary.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy because you're looking at man coverage all the time.
Yeah.
So Carson Wentz looked like a genius because management went out and got him 2 former all-pro running backs.
Yeah.
And so it made his job real easy. So everyone talked about Wentz. No one talked about Ncaa and Blount.
Yeah.
As far as what they had done last season,
Yeah.
continued doing it this year in Philadelphia.
Yep.
It was all Wentz. But without those guys, it's the same team without those guys. When you look at the upgrades all the way around, you had Alshon Jeffrey and Steve Smith.
Yep.
They brought in a receiver, Zach Ertz, the tight end. Carson Wentz was the same guy. The tools around him got better, Charlton. The talent around him got better. So he's playing to the talent that he has.
Yeah, and that's
he's
true.
Got better. He's playing to the talent that he has.
No, that's very true, Big C. And when you think about that, I want to get your thoughts. When you look at Green Bay, and I know they brought in Rodgers, and I'm glad because every player is always one play from being injured. But Rodgers has that mentality. There's a reason he's great. He believes that he can succeed no matter what, and he's not going to sit on the sideline because of a broken collarbone or because of some pain. The doctor said he's good to play, so he played. So, but they're out of the playoffs now. do they rest Rodgers, Big C, because he did look a little bit rusty, or do they just let him play out because he's such a competitor? Does that make any sense at all? They're not going anywhere this year, Big C. Your thoughts?
With Charlton, he was really rusty in that game against the Panthers. He threw 3 interceptions in that game.
Yeah.
And after doing that and being eliminated by the Falcons last night with their victory, ironically, Green Bay put him on injured reserve for the rest of the season today, Charlton.
That's a good
so
move.
He won't be playing in the final 2 games of the season for the Packers, Charlton. They're going to see what Hundley has in it, if he has anything in these next 2 games. And they don't want to see Minnesota going after Rodgers again, and that's one of the opponents that's left on the table is the Vikings within the division.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened the last time he ended up with the broken collarbone, so they don't want to put him in that peril. They're out of the playoffs. Let him heal completely, Charlton. Now he has an extra month to get healthy, for next season.
Yep.
But, this is the first time since 2008, the first year that Aaron Rodgers took over at quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, that they have not made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So this is odd territory for the Packers, Charlton. You think about it, everybody that's on the team, other than Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, their entire career, they've made the playoffs with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
So this is something that they're not accustomed to, so there's some wholesale changes. And, one of the things that I heard today that they're talking about probably getting rid of Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy, the head coach and general manager.
Why?
Which I don't understand.
No.
Injuries can happen to anybody, and everybody see how fragile some teams are. Quarterbacks, Charlton, are a premium in the NFL. You got 10 teams in the NFL without a starting quarterback. They got guys they put behind center who don't have starting quarterbacks. So
that's true.
You don't want to blame a head coach because the general manager and the director of player personnel didn't bring him a quarterback, Charlton, even though they know there's some quarterbacks out there that can play.
Yeah.
But they chose not to sign them because they're geniuses and they're going to go with the guy that they drafted.
Yep.
So, don't fire the guy, Charlton, who's calling the plays because you didn't give him any tools to work with.
Yeah.
It's just like when we talked about, you didn't give a quarterback a running back, so he has to throw the ball all the time. Anybody should call Dan Marino when they have a problem with that. Say, Dan, what was it like playing your career without an all-pro running back? You had to throw the ball every time and let everybody do what you were going to do.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep. They said Dan threw for over 50,000 yards. Dan said, I had no choice.
Over 70,000.
Oh, 70?
yards.
Okay.
70,000 yards. Because he had no choice.
He had no choice. Yeah.
He threw in the shotgun, so he couldn't hand off.
Yeah, was it Bob Greasy down way back in the day under Don Shula that played for the Dolphins in their perfect season when they had a couple of runs at the Super Bowl? People think about Bob Greasy, but I still remember Larry Soccer and Mercury Morris, Big C. 2 great running backs, Hall of Fame quality running backs. That's why the Dolphins went undefeated without losing a game, Big C, throughout the whole season. And that's why they were a dominant team in the AFC. So we can go back 40 years, and the Big C, it was still about the running backs, your thought?
Well, true, Charlton. A 3-headed monster had Zonka, Kick, and Morris.
Yeah.
Down there, the triplets playing in Miami.
Yeah.
And they also had a backup quarterback on that team, Charlton, Earl Moore. Earl Moore was the first backup quarterback, Charlton, to take multiple teams to the Super Bowl. He did it with the Baltimore Colts. He took them when Johnny Unitas had been knocked out, Charlton. He took them to the Super Bowl back against the Jets in '69 against Joe Namath. He also, played in another Super Bowl in '71 against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But he took the Dolphins during that undefeated season, Charlton, through the regular season while Bob Greasy had a broken foot.
Yeah.
Bob Greasy came back for the Super Bowl. The offense was not as productive, but they won the game, Charlton. But those running backs got the Dolphins through the season. Earl Morrall didn't have to do a lot. You're talking about a 41-year-old quarterback who didn't have the greatest mobility, okay? So his running game allowed him the opportunity to get the ball down the field when needed. So without that running game, he wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And so that's played out throughout the history of the game, Charlton.
Yeah.
But these running backs are these throwaway commodities now in the NFL. They talk about, to have a franchise quarterback. I listen to your friend Kuiper say that all the time.
He's not my friend, Big C. That's funny.
You got to take his Christmas card and take off your man on the house.
No.
It's not your friend.
Just to touch on the point that you're thinking about, if you look at Antonio Brown, I know he was injured in the game against New England with Pittsburgh, but he's going to be back for the playoffs. Before suffering a calf injury, okay, if you look at Antonio Brown, he became the first player with at least 100 catches in 5 consecutive seasons. And even without him, because they have Le'Veon Bell, they were knocking on the door of winning. It was Big Ben that threw the pass over the middle where he should not have. Whether you thought they called him to throw a pass on the sideline or not, if you're a veteran quarterback and you have Super Bowl experience, you spike that ball, you live another down. You spike it and maybe try to throw a fade if you can, but I think it was on a third down, so they could have kicked the field goal and tied the game. That's not about saying, well, I looked at the sideline and they told me what to do. You always call off with the play if you're the guy behind the center, Big C. But that point you've been making about having a strong running game is very important, and that's what I love about the NFL. I want to bring you to another game because it's going to be one of the bigger games this week, even though New England's already clinched. Buffalo's playing for something. The Bills in New England, you have, Gronk is back, and you have this. They just got to find a way to win that game if you're Buffalo, or they can fold in the tent. What do you think is going to that game on the Buffalo side? They have Shady McCoy. We know he can run the ball. We just talked about running backs. We have Tyrod Taylor. He's a great quarterback who can run and pass the ball. New England, they may rest Tom Brady, or they may put him out there and get him injured against a desperate team. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I look at this game, Charlton, in two perspectives. Is that I look at Buffalo, who can use the blueprint that the Steelers use in Monday nights, Sunday nights games, Charlton.
Yeah.
They can play that same way. But also, I'm wondering, is there going to be a distraction, a Gronk distraction, Charlton, in this game? Because there's going to be some players who will take a shot at him, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because the egregious act that he committed last time when they played, that was heinous. I mean, on the street, he'd have got arrested.
Yeah.
We understand that football is a very violent game, Charlton, but on the street, he would have got arrested for assault. And the league let him off lightly.
One game.
Well, he's a big guy. He's shit on all the time.
You got one game.
I think about Thomas Davis, Charlton, the linebacker for Carolina.
He got 2 games.
Who got a 2-game suspension, Charlton, for a hit on Adams, the receiver from Green Bay.
But he apologized for it at the play because he didn't mean to do it.
And you can see him looking contrite on the sideline.
Yeah.
And he did his during a play, Charlton.
Yeah.
It wasn't an act when he got up off the ground, came and hit the guy when he was laying on the ground.
Yeah.
So that we talk about these different standards in society as well as in sports, Charlton.
Yep.
And that's a different standard when you look at the league policing play on the field. Is that it was okay for Gronk to drill a guy down on the ground when he was totally defenseless. And the play was over, Charlton, so nobody else was doing anything.
Yeah.
Adams got hit during the play, Charlton, by Davis. Davis went back at him, hit him, and in this scenario, Charlton got suspended for 2 games.
Yeah.
And so what the league is saying is that it's acceptable for Gronk to assault a player, but it's not acceptable for an African-American linebacker to hit a player, Charlton, during a play and receive less, more punishment than what somebody did when a play was over.
Yeah, and you can sometimes, Big C, all people have to do sometimes is Google that. And when I go back to sometimes I look at, we just talked about New England, and will they rest Tom Brady? If it only makes sense to rest him, will they? I don't know, but you're not doing anything but risking him because the Bills are going to retaliate against somebody in New England, and it might just be Tom. I mean, don't be naive. You took out one of their guys. I think my Russian friends, they say an eye for an eye, and Big C, they really mean it. They showed me a couple eyeballs. I didn't question whether they fish eyes or from a pig or what it was. They just showed me a couple guys that didn't pay up, and so I understand what eye for an eye means. I want to just give them one thought on Garoppolo. 5-0 as an NFL starter. He's led the 49ers to some comebacks. Even though it was the field goal kicker that won the game, he gave some comebacks. And since Big Ben did it, his first 5 NFL starts have all been wins, even though it wasn't like he threw the ball into the end zone for a win, but he was the quarterback, and they get all the credit when you win, and when you lose, they give the blame to the offensive line, Big C. Your thoughts on Garoppolo being 5-0 along with Big Ben as NFL starters, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, those are 2 different 5-0 scenarios, Charlton. He did that with New England filling in for Brady last year.
Yep.
The first couple of wins, Charlton. He's come over to the 49ers. You got to also look at the opponents that the 49ers have played in those victories, Charlton. Other than the Titans, no one had a winning record.
No.
So, that's one of the things that you have to
you saying beating winning teams matter, Big C? You can't just beat a Pop Warner team and have that same accolades, Big C?
Well, I think that's one of the greatest things talking about being able to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
To beat teams with winning records.
Oh, okay.
when you go out there and you beat the teams with records,
Yeah.
similar to yours, I mean, it's really just a toss-up.
Yeah.
Who's playing who?
Yeah.
It's like who's on first, what's on second.
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I do think the Garoppolo is an upside from what they started the season with, Charlton. They started the season with Hoyer. They went to Bedford, and now they have Hoyer.
Garoppolo, yeah.
He has shown some snap and throwing the football, Charlton. But it's an early test. I mean, you see a lot of quarterbacks come in a couple of games. I mean, there's no pressure on Garoppolo when you think about it. He just goes out and let it fly.
Yeah.
There's no pressure on it. There's no chance of the 49ers making the playoffs. So if he makes mistakes, Charlton, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that's the difference from when you start the season is every game's matter.
Yeah.
The games don't matter right now with San Francisco, other than some guys trying to play for a contract next year.
Yeah.
The games don't matter. I mean, when you look at their personnel, yes, it's nice to have Garoppolo quarterback. It's early.
Yep.
But look at their division that they're playing in, Charlton.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You're praising Garoppolo. You have two teams in that division. I think one's in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Got some Rams horns on their helmet.
Yeah.
in Seattle got a bird on the side of their helmet.
Yeah.
And they both have pretty decent quarterbacks right now. They're playing.
Yeah.
And they both have winning records. Okay?
Yeah, Big Z, I want to.
Let's not sell the house on Garoppolo winning a couple games. Charlton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let him get double-digit games before we say hoorah.
Yeah,
That's the guy,
that's like the boxing guy that has an undefeated record. He maybe is 25-0, and then they say, "Well, can he beat this guy that's 10-0?" Well, the guy 10-0 was fighting against sparring partners. The guy that was 21-0, he beat heavyweight champions to get there. Big C. I want to ask you a stupid question. With that big old bird outside of it, the Mercedes-Benz Dome, I know you covered a couple of games down there for the Falcons. Have any good old boys from the South tried to take that bird and shoot him up and take him home for the holidays, or do they realize that bullets don't shoot through steel? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we're talking there's a couple of dents in the armor on that bird. I'm not sure what happened. I know they got some floodlights down there on the down.
Yeah.
Trying to keep an eye on it because, I mean, during this time of year, Charlton, especially when you can't find game all the time, you see something pretty up there, like, hey, let's see what it tastes like.
That's true. They want to see what it tastes like. I think out here in Northern California at the Golden One Center, they have this rabbit. It's a bunny rabbit outside of the Golden One Center in Sacramento. And I hear it would cost $10 million, Big C. Now, I walked up to that bunny rabbit, and there's a small sign that says, "Do not touch." Some good old boy. If you spend $10 million on a bunny rabbit, not only do you want to touch it, you want to eat it, Big C. That make any sense? Your thoughts?
I mean, dinner's going to be expensive when you come down to it, Charlton. I mean, we're going to find a way to have some money. We're going to be in trouble come
That's so funny. Big C, I want to jump across to the Lakers last night. I look at what happened. The Lakers, number one, I think, Kevin Durant had a really bad game, but he hit the winning shot against the Lakers. They went to overtime. Ball actually had a good game playing against Durant and them good old boys. But I want to ask you something that I thought was very salient about Kobe Bryant. And a lot of people didn't like Kobe because they said he's too competitive, right? He wanted to win so much, he didn't even care about his teammates. If they didn't get the hustle, he wanted to get rid of them. That's kind of why Shaq didn't finish his career as a Laker, but Kobe did. Just give me your thoughts on the mentality that Kobe had to be so dominant they retired 2 jerseys, Big C. Your thoughts?
Kobe was as good a competitor on the basketball court, Johnson, as we've ever seen.
Yeah.
When you think about the ceremony last night, Johnson, they had a dozen of the greatest players of all time that attended this ceremony, Johnson, to have this celebration along with Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
One of the things about great athletes, Charlton, it's hard to find athletes that are equal to them on the same team that they participate on.
Yeah.
And Kobe was always driven. But Kobe's not driven any more than any other great athlete, Charlton. I think one of the things about Kobe is that Kobe always wanted people to know about him.
To know, yeah.
And wanted people to love him
like
he loved himself.
Yeah.
Whether it was in the media or in the fans, Charlton, because he constantly made inroads to let these people know who he was.
Yeah.
Even now that Kobe has walked away from the game, Kobe is still seeking out the spotlight.
Yeah.
So many players, Charlton, when they left the game, they left the game. They left all that behind.
Yeah.
They didn't write love letters to themselves about the game,
Yeah.
They go out and want to make and produce movies about themselves, Charlton, about the game.
Yeah.
I think that there's still a void within Kobe that, he's still trying to fulfill and satisfy. I mean, he accomplished everything that you could as a player, personally and team-wise. And sometimes the greatest part of an athlete, Charlton, is that when they've left the game, you don't hear about them any longer.
Yeah.
That, to me, attributes to a tremendous athlete and team player. But when you're selfish enough to constantly want to bring attention to yourself, Charlton, whether you're criticizing the team or talking about current players in the game, you go back and look. Other than an analyst, Charlton, that's doing that, we don't get that injection in sports from former players.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're a former player and you're constantly coming in, and when you're coming in, you're trying to analyze and criticize players that exist.
Yeah.
I mean, let your volume and body of work speak for itself.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to work as an analyst on a network, your injection is really not needed. You know, I appreciate and praise Kobe over his career.
Yeah.
But let his career stand and speak for itself.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have to come out and try to be a spokesperson for the current players. Magic didn't do it when he left the Lakers. Kareem didn't do it when he left the Lakers. Michael didn't go back and criticize the Bulls when he left the Bulls. And so Shaq never went back and criticized the half dozen teams that he played for.
That's a very good point.
And the biggest mouth that we have in all of the analytic world of basketball, Charles Barkley, as great as he is, he doesn't go back and criticize his former players, Charles.
No, and that's one thing, too. And I know everybody loves Kobe, and that's all in good. But sometimes I think when the Golden State Warriors got their rings, they did it, you know, the first part of the season. They didn't get, you know, well into the season, Big CB, right around the holidays, and make this celebration thing about, you know, any particular player coming back getting the ring. They even gave Matt Barnes a ring, you know, who didn't finish with him. He retired. But at the same time, they got it out of the way so they could focus on winning. And the fact that they come around the Christmas holidays, it's almost like Kobe Bryant's Christmas tour. Don't you guys miss me? Don't you guys remember how great I am? I mean, it's all about the Lakers now, and if they're going to go forward, it's like that old girlfriend, once she fires you and you move on from her, she wants to keep showing up on the holidays to see if you still have feelings for her. Big C, I think the Lakers have done it already enough, and let the guy score his 80 or 60 points in his final game and give him a ring. You know, retire him the first game of the season or the first week, but not when the Lakers are, you know, they're not that far out of being in the 8th spot in the Western Conference playoffs, and they got to make it about the players, not the old girlfriend that they're no longer with. Big C, that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, it's true, Charlton. Distractions are not needed within a young club. I mean, these players that are on the Lakers roster now, yes, they were fans of Kobe Bryant. But, you know, that fanfare is over because they are now the present and the future of the Lakers' history going forward.
Yeah.
So let's concentrate on those. Let's let those play. I mean, they played a tremendous game last night, playing against a former opponent in the Warriors, taking them into overtime.
Yep.
And so, you know, maybe if they had to have that distraction of Kobe being there at halftime, taking all the focus away, and having to spend extra time in the locker room, Charlton, they may have been able to pull one out last night.
Hey, there's a time and place for everything. You got to go with the one who brought you to the dance, and right now they got to go with the people they have. I want to contrast that with the great Houston Rockets right now because they've won 14 straight. I don't think they're going to win the Western Conference Championship because they still have to go through Golden State, no matter how great Harden plays and Chris Paul. They have a team that's been there. Golden State's a different breed of cat, and they're not going to bring back some player like Chris Mullin and celebrate him before the holidays because they're focused on them getting into the Western Conference playoffs again and winning the division. I don't think they're going to bring back Mitch Richmond around the Christmas and try to celebrate him. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're not, but I mean, you look at what the Rockets have done. They have to be the most fearful team right now in the NBA. I mean, we've seen streaks this year in the NBA. We saw it start out with the Boston Celtics, Charlton. The Warriors got a little hot streak there until Steph had gotten hurt.
Yeah.
We saw the Cavaliers go on a double-digit run, and now we see this with the Houston Rockets. The difference with the Houston Rockets, Charlton, is that right now they have the best shooting team in the NBA. They've taken more threes, Charlton, and made this season than the Warriors did during their championship run, you know, in making threes. So they're a hot-hand team, Charlton. They're getting 48 points a game off of three-point shots, Charlton. 48 points. Think about it. They're knocking down 16 threes a game.
Yeah.
And so it gives them a huge advantage over any opponent. And so when you have such great outside shooters led by James Harden, Charlton, and Chris Paul has really helped this team because when Harden's not on the floor, Charlton, he's a true court general.
Yeah.
He has that veteran experience. And, you know, when we look at teams like with the Warriors last year when Durant came in,
yeah,
you have teams that will submit to the greatness of another player coming in. And we've seen that with Chris Paul. Everybody was saying, well, you know, how is this going to work out to have 2 point guards on a team?
Yeah.
Well, Mike D'Antonio will run you to death. That's how it works out.
That's how it works out. Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
When he was in Phoenix, Steve Nash was a 2-time MVP.
Yeah.
Point guard.
Yep.
Running D'Antonio's system. When you look at Paul, he's the closest to Steve Nash that D'Antonio has had at point guard. That same type of player who thinks team first and not me.
Yeah.
And so by having that type of mentality, it made him adjust to this lineup real easy, Charlton. And we see the byproduct of it with Houston knocking off 14 consecutive wins.
Yeah, and it's not easy to win night in and night out in any league, especially in the NBA, where you don't have a week to prepare from being exhausted in the prior game. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is this foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century, and they work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or even your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. You can also call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Big C, I just want to pay homage to some of the teams right now in the NBA that are playing at a high level coming up on this Christmas holiday weekend. We have Boston, obviously. They're at top of the Atlantic Division in the Eastern Conference. In the Southeast Division, you have Washington, followed by Miami. In the Central Division, you have Cleveland. They're followed by Detroit. And then in the Western Conference, in the Southwest Division, we just talked about Houston and San Antonio that's right on their heels. In the Northwest Division, you have Minnesota with Portland just chasing them. And in the Pacific Division, you have Golden State, and they're way out ahead of the Clippers. And I'm telling you, there's always something shake-up that happens in the game of basketball where teams start to come together after the Christmas break, and I hope we'll see a lot of that happening on the hardwood. Big C, I want to transition as we can, and I want to just get your thoughts on college football. We've already had a couple of bowl games, and we're going to have more bowl games. And I look at Lane Kiffin, of all the coaches that are going to be trading schools and trading teams and going different places, new contracts. Lane Kiffin, they went 10-3 this year, and I believe when he was at Alabama, that's the last time they won a championship, even though they lost a championship too. But he wasn't on the sideline in their last championship, lost, Big C. What does that say about Lane Kiffin and how valuable he is as a head coach, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, as a head coach, as an offensive coordinator, Charlton, as you mentioned, Alabama's not won a national championship since he has left. Matter of fact, they haven't won the conference championship, Charlton, since he's left.
Wow.
So, he had a major impact in the SEC. I know it's Nick Saban's program, but you think about it. He went to Florida Atlantic, Charlton, this year. This was a team that he inherited that had gone 3-9 the previous season prior to his arrival.
Yeah.
Charlton, this season, he turned that around to a 10-3 program.
Yeah.
It's playing in a bowl game tonight.
Yeah.
Not only that, the university signed him to a 10-year contract today, Charlton.
That's good.
And people are saying, well, why would he take a 10-year contract when, he has aspirations of going to a bigger program?
Yeah.
Charlton, Lane Kiffin has coached at every level that you can coach at. You think about it, he was head coach at USC. He was head coach at Tennessee. He was head coach at Oakland Raiders. He was offensive coordinator at Alabama.
Yeah.
So he's seen the crescendo of coaching, Charlton.
Yeah.
Sometimes because of all the naysayers out there that work in the field that we work in media, Charlton.
Yep.
Love to see someone go somewhere because they feel that to go to someplace else they may fail, that they may not be a good fit.
Yeah.
I think about his coaching report. The guy that he's coaching is tonight, Charlton. Who's at Akron.
Yeah, Akron.
Jared Bowden, coached Auburn to an 11-0 season.
Yeah.
Before being dismissed down there. You think about it. SEC, he goes in 11-0, coach of the year. School had some problems, let him go.
Yep.
So, when he went to Akron, Charlton, he said, I'm good here.
Yeah.
I don't need to go elsewhere.
Yep.
I've seen the big boys. I know what it's about.
Yeah.
And certain coaches, when we look at it, Charlton, everybody's not going to be a Jimbo Fisher that gets a guaranteed $75 million contract.
No, they like to be, though. I'd like to get that contract.
Well, you also got to look, Charlton, when you look at spending the coaching carousel for some years.
Yeah.
You made several $1 million.
Yeah.
And with some people, it gets to the point, how much do you need to survive?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Do you want the sanity? Do you want the comfort? Do you want the serenity of being in a place where you're not under the microscope all the time? And I think that's what Lane Kiffin is right now.
Yeah.
Not to say that he won't leave in the future, Charlton, but to have a place where you've gone in, you have a great recruiting class coming in also. And right now, you're one of the hottest teams in Florida.
Yeah.
You see, think about it. The three big boys in Florida, the three teams that are in bowl games in Florida, Charlton. Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
Central Florida. And South Florida.
They got and Florida International is in there too. I don't even know where they came from, but they're in there.
Yeah.
We don't
see Florida State.
Nope.
We don't see the University of Florida. Yeah, Miami's there.
Yeah.
But these are teams that nobody thought about years ago, Charlton. But now they've been turned around by some high interest coaches.
Yeah. Obviously, the guy knows what he's doing. He's been on the staff with the Raiders, been on the staff at USC, went on the staff at Alabama. Kind of the richest of the rich when you think about it. And now he goes to a smaller program and has them in a bowl game as well. Big C, I know there's a lot of college football games coming up over the season before the end of the year, and we're going to see the Boca Raton Bowl tonight with Florida Atlantic at 10-3 versus Akron, which is 7-6. And actually, Florida Atlantic is favored by 15 in that game. And then tomorrow we have the Frisco Bowl. I thought that would be in San Francisco, but it's Frisco, Texas. I was going to go down to the Frisco Bowl and cover it, but they said the game's in Texas, so I decided I don't want to run down to Texas with them good old boys. That's going to be SMU 7-5 versus Louisiana Tech 6-6, and then we'll have a lot of more bowls that we'll cover up for the rest of the season coming up. Big C. I do want to touch on one thing that I think really is an honor, actually, when you look at college football. I look at Gino Auriemma, he's got 1,000 wins at UConn. Tyra Vanderbeer has 1,000 wins at Stanford. And now you have the women's coach at UConn also approaching that same milestone. Just talk about what it takes for a coach to every year you have turnover, especially if you're at Kentucky. You got guys for 1 year, 2 at the most. But the women tend to hang around a lot longer, and it provides not only stability for the program, but even more importantly, stability for the player that they get a full college education. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the history of college basketball, only 4 great coaches have eclipsed the 1,000-win mark. That was originally set by Pat Summitt, the former late coach of the University of Tennessee women's basketball program, Charlton.
Yeah.
Tara Vanderbeer, the current head coach at the University of Stanford, has eclipsed that plateau.
Yeah.
After that, only one men's coach, Charlton, in Division I history, Mike Krzyzewski, has done that, has eclipsed that feat, Charlton. And today, Sylvia Hatchell of the University of North Carolina women's basketball team, Charlton, won her 1,000th game as a head coach after 42 seasons.
Yeah.
But Charlton, tonight they may have a 5th member to join that. That's the great Gino Auriemma at UConn University. When you think about what a coach has accomplished through his career, I mean, he has many opportunities to get to that 1,000. A lot of things that he's accomplished, he's only had one run at it.
Yeah.
When you miss an NCAA championship, you don't get a run again the next night or 2 nights later when you get defeated in that situation, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you think about what Auriemma has done, Charlton, he will reach that 1,000-win plateau quicker than any coach in history has ever reached it, Charlton.
Yeah.
He, ironically, Pat Summitt reached it with 185 losses in her career before she got to that 1,000-win plateau.
Yeah.
You think about Gino Auriemma. He can lose the next 50 games, Charlton, and only win the 51st and still beat Pat Summitt's record, making it to the 1,000-win plateau, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Sylvia Hatchell this afternoon for North Carolina, Charlton, she went under the radar. No one realized where she was.
No.
A tremendous coach, 42 years in the game, playing, Charlton, in the ACC, one of the toughest conferences in America that has some tremendous basketball programs.
Yeah.
And she eclipsed that this afternoon against Grambling State University. But Gino Auriemma was getting all the accolades throughout the media, Charlton, because everybody knows who he is. Sylvia Hatchell went in under the radar. I want to give a lot of praise and accolades to this tremendous woman. Charlton, she was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame 3 years ago.
Wow.
As a coach. So she's achieved all of what you can achieve in the women's game of basketball, Charlton, after 42 seasons, being the 4th person to win 1,000 games throughout a career, and hopefully Gino Auriemma would join that tonight, Charles. You think about it, 2 coaches joining the 1,000-win plateau in the same day in college basketball.
That's a very good point, Big C. And I just want to close out, when you talk about that, and Vad de Beer, we know that she's been great down at Stanford on the farm on the West Coast. But when you think about great coaches, most people think about guys like Gene Smith, and they think about guys like Tarkanian. They think about guys like Wooden or Knight at Indiana, Calipari. They think about Richardson when he had the 40 minutes of hell down there, them good old boys in Arkansas. Just give me your thoughts on, if you think about Gene Smith, in your opinion, because you've seen so many of these guys, and now we bring the contemporary Auriemma around, what made Gene Smith so great? And I get your thoughts on a couple of other coaches as well, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, Dean was a trailblazer. He took chances during a time when people weren't willing to do that.
Yeah.
He was willing to put the best players on the floor and, got a lot of backlash from his contemporaries and the people around.
Yeah.
Looking at it, how dare you do this to us?
Yeah. Yeah.
That you crossed the barrier.
Yeah.
But Charlton, society was one of those things set to break down. Sports has galvanized so many parts of society and broken down so many barriers over the decades.
Yeah.
Where people were not allowed to do things, but athletes were allowed to run. We talked about Jesse Owens being able to run in the Olympics, but not being treated with respect at home.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier, but he did not break down the color lines, Charlton, in America.
Yep.
And this has gone on throughout the decades, whether it's been basketball. You think about Wilt's dominance in his early career. No one talks about the backlash that Wilt took, but Wilt took a lot of racial epithets and hatred for dominating the game that he did, which was all white prior to him. Was dominated by whites.
Yeah.
So these things have happened, and when you had coaches that have allowed opportunity, not taking chances, Charlton, but allowed opportunity, because that's what that is. You didn't take a chance with that player. You gave that player an opportunity. Because you knew as a coach, the opportunity that you gave that man was going to allow you to be better as a person and as a coach.
Yeah.
And that's what athletics has always been about, Charlton. Creating opportunity, and for the most part, a lot of disadvantaged people have gotten opportunity through sports that have allowed them to escalate their lives. I think about the game last night, Charlton, where Tampa Bay had a young rookie running back playing, and he left college early. He had been at the University of Auburn.
Yeah.
He came out early, and everybody questioned. He didn't get drafted, but he made Tampa Bay as a free agent. He said he wanted to leave college because he needed to help his mother because she was homeless. Okay? And he couldn't see himself being in college, staying in a nice warm dorm and getting everything that he needed, and having his mother homeless. And she had worked so hard to have him get an education.
Yeah.
Fortunately enough, things worked out for him, Charlton. He's an undrafted free agent running back starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's his mother that was homeless. He's making $45,000 a week now, Charlton, playing in the NFL as an undrafted free agent rookie, which is not a bad income for a guy right out of college making $750,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
But look at what he did, Charlton. He left because of his mother. He had the determination to help her, so he was able to go and make the team as an undrafted free agent, Charlton. And so everybody benefited from that. But he was given the opportunity, as we talked about with Dean Smith earlier.
Yeah.
He gave people the opportunity, and they were able to make the best of it throughout their lives, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I want to bring that up also because I look at Richardson, that coach down at Arkansas, and I remember Bill Clinton was there when the Razorbacks won the national championship because they beat Duke in that game. And I think about what you just said is so important because now we praise people on how much money they made. Do you recall when Dean Smith was coaching? It wasn't about Dean Smith signing a 7-year, $50 million contract like that good old boy Jimbo Fisher, $75 million. It wasn't about that. When you had Richardson coaching, it wasn't about he signed this multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract. It was about the opportunity they saw in young people and gave them chances. When John Wooden coached out at UCLA, it wasn't about, oh my God, he just signed a multi-year, $80 million contract at UCLA. It wasn't about that at Bobby Knight. I know Bobby Knight was kind of tough on a lot of his players, Big C, things that would not be condoned today. But it wasn't about those men and how much money they made. Smith and Tarkanian, when Tarkanian got kids at Long Beach State, UNLV, and Fresno State, It wasn't about how he signed a multi-million-dollar contract and how much money he's making. They gave players opportunity, and they all did that great, Big C. How has that gone out of the thinking of our media now, and all we focus on is how much money some coach got, not how many players whose lives are made better because they crossed his paths, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about those older coaches of the past, Charlton, it was about the betterment of young lives.
Yeah.
Now everybody's thinking about their financial betterment. And I mean, there's a lot of talk going back and forth about awarding, college athletes some financial compensation for what they do.
They
because
should.
they're paying these coaches this outlandish money now, Charlton. These coaches have agents where, no, my guy, it deserves this because this is what he's making for the program.
Yeah.
I mean, universities now, Charlton, have to bring out their financial spreadsheets.
Yeah.
When it comes down to negotiating with the coach.
Yeah.
And I understand that certain coaches have a certain mentality, Charlton, that they say make programs better.
Yeah.
But it still comes down to the byproduct of what they have.
The players,
the players.
Yeah.
And without these players, you don't get any better.
Yeah.
You look at out there on the West Coast where USC was in the doldrums for a while. So,
yeah.
And they couldn't decide on coaches. They brought in Sarkisian, but he couldn't put the bottle of pills or the bottle of alcohol down.
Yep.
And so they got rid of him.
Yep.
And now they got Clay Helton out there who stabilized the program.
Yeah, done a great job.
Was it Clay Helton that stabilized the program, Charlton, or was it the athletes that they had?
Yeah,
okay?
it's the athletes.
Because we look at Ogeron as an interim coach. I believe he had one loss.
Yeah, at USC.
As an interim coach,
yeah.
So, it's hard to say that certain coaches are of value. Now, Chip Kelly is going to go into UCLA, where Jim Moore had got fired. You think about Jim Moore's first couple of years at UCLA, Charlton, where he was highly productive and made some bowl games.
Yep.
You think about the last 2 years where he's had catastrophic injuries throughout his lineup and missing players having multiple games lost, and all of a sudden the season goes down the hill.
Yeah.
So the coach got to go because the coach can prevent injuries.
Yeah.
That's the one thing the coach can do. He can prevent injuries of players out on the field while they're playing.
Yeah.
So because you get these players injured, as a coach, you got to go. Because you don't have a backup plan for injured players.
Yeah.
You don't have enough players sitting on the depth chart to make up for the players who are not in the lineup.
Yeah.
And so as we look at these coaches that have come in, now Jimbo Fisher goes to Texas A&M, $75 million guaranteed.
Wow.
All right? $75 million guaranteed. He's in the SEC. He's in a conference that had 5 teams that make bowl games, Charlton, in his division.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yep.
So he's got a catapult over 4 teams, Charlton. He can be second in his division. And now, if he doesn't get to 10-2, next season,
yep.
What's going to be the cry? If he comes in and say 79, we got to give him an opportunity to rebuild. And we just heard that story in Texas last year, Charlie, with Tom Herman when he came in. Well, they're not his players.
Yeah.
That's the same thing they said about Charlie Strong. Well, they're not his players.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't look at that in the same light. Every coach who gets a new coaching job with a university, let me tell the rest of our broadcast brothers and all you fans out there,
yeah,
they're not his players when he showed up, okay?
That's always true, and we know that's true. But, it's always something where we want to just award the coaches and make it about the players, make it about the lives they've made better, and that's what I appreciate about Ariana. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always say, Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, what I'm trying to do is get my calculator and my construction book out, trying to figure out all these bowl games right now because I think I missed a couple of them.
Yeah.
I got to figure that out right now. As you get older, you kind of forget it. When we were playing, Charlton, I think we had maybe a half dozen bowl games on New Year's Day, 7 New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Started with the Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl down at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, and all finished up on New Year's Day. Now, Charlton, this starts the week after Thanksgiving. I think the bowl game.
Yeah, it's all good, and we love it. As they say, if you're not cheating in the world of sports, you're not trying. We wish everybody well that has had the chance to reach a bowl game. And speaking of reaching a bowl game, you can listen to Bowl Game Play every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no woman should ever have to go through that garbage on her own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.